One night changed history forever. Explosions lit the sky. Ships sank in minutes. December 7th, 1941. A calm Sunday morning until the sky turned black. Over 350 Japanese warplanes launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. Within minutes, thousands were dead, and America's fate was sealed. Calm Sunday morning shattered by the roar of Japanese warplanes. In just 2 hours, over 2,400 Americans were killed. Battleships burned, the Pacific Fleet crippled. The very next day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt stood before Congress and the nation. His voice was steady, his words unforgettable. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by the Empire of Japan. With that declaration, the course of history changed. America was no longer a distant observer. It was now a nation at war. The factories roared to life. Millions enlisted. From the ashes of Pearl Harbor rose a war machine unlike anything the world had ever seen. The United States had been struck, but it would rise, and it would fight back, with everything it had. The United States, once distant, once neutral, now had no choice. A sleeping giant had been awakened. The pain of loss turned into resolve. The shock turned into steel. And from that moment on, America stepped fully into the war. Not as a bystander, but as a force that would shape the fate of the world. The Second World War had entered a new phase, and nothing would ever be the same again. After the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, the American government began urgent preparations for total war. We were buying time to convert the industries of peace into war, time to make ships, merchant ships and warships, time to make planes and more planes, bombers and fighters, faster, more powerful than any the world had ever seen, time to make guns and more guns, shells and more shells, tanks and more tanks. Time to gather the huge strength which was ours to pour the great riches of American earth into the cauldron of war. Iron, steel, oil, coal. Time to build a navy called upon to fight in both oceans and upon all the seas, to convoy men and weapons to Australia, to Britain, to the Middle East, to Russia. A navy that had already undertaken daring raids upon the Gilbert and Marshall Islands and brave Japanese waters, and had taken a heavy toll of the invading forces in the Makassar Straits and had won the first battle in the Coral Sea. Time to expand a miniature professional army into a modern war machine. Time to take civilians gathered in a peacetime conscription while we were still debating, to mold them into soldiers, train them in the use of new weapons, new tactics. Time to teach them the lesson Europe had learned too late, that modern war could only be won by men of skill. Time to send these men to our new bastions, Newfoundland, Trinidad, Bermuda, Greenland, Iceland. We were buying time to build an air force, the largest air force in the world, for our Army and Navy. And when the time came, America was ready. The factories had roared, the soldiers had trained, and the weapons were built. The United States turned its might against the Empire of Japan. From the Coral Sea to Midway, from island to island, America struck back, harder than anyone could have imagined. This was the fire Japan had ignited, and now it would burn back with unstoppable force. The arsenal of democracy was no longer preparing, it was fighting, and the world would never be the same again.